Antisemitism in ancient Rome during the imperial period was quite common. It is believed that the Romans learned everyday antisemitism from the Greeks along with other traditions. One of the key causes of antique Judophobia is considered to be the confinement of Jews within their communities. Outbreaks of antisemitism in the Hellenistic world were usually associated with crop failures. It did not take long for Jewish merchants to be blamed for food problems. The first mention of the existence of a Jewish community in Rome dates back to 139 BC. It is associated with the total expulsion of the Jews from Rome, carried out by decision of the Senate. The decision may have been prompted by active Jewish proselytism. The Roman authorities saw the spread of Judaism as an ideological threat to their statehood. There was also Jewish pogroms in the Roman Empire. They occurred mostly in the eastern part of the empire, in its Greek polities. The largest pogrom took place under Caligula in 38 A.D. in Alexandria. The Jews at that time made up about 2/5 of the city's population. In the course of the incident about 400 Jewish houses and several synagogues were ruined, many Jews were killed. The entire Jewish population of the city was deprived of their civil rights. They only regained them after the death of Caligula. Up to a certain point, the Jews in the Roman state lived peacefully enough and were not prone to conflict, for this Cicero even called them a people born for slavery. The Roman authorities, with a certain amount of contempt for the Jews, occasionally attempted to harass them. Thus Caligula had a statue of himself placed in the temple in Jerusalem. The then procurator Petronius, realizing that carrying out the order was fraught with rebellion, decided not to carry it out. Caligula was eventually dissuaded, but Petronius almost paid for his disobedience with his life. Caligula's murder happily saved him. The anti-Roman revolt in Judea, which eventually led to the destruction of Jerusalem, began in 66 AD under Emperor Nero. The revolt was provoked by the oppression of the Jews by the procurator, Hessius Florus, who, in particular, tried to seize the temple treasures and carried out a massacre in Jerusalem. In the initial phase of the revolt, the Jews succeeded in defeating the Romans and driving them out of Judea. In the course of the war, which lasted several years, according to ancient sources, about 600,000 inhabitants of Palestine died, i.e., about 1/3 of its population at that time. Jerusalem in the year 70 after 5 months of siege was taken, looted, and almost completely destroyed. Many inhabitants of the city were killed or taken into slavery. It is believed that the construction of the Colosseum and other Roman structures under Vespasian was financed by the spoils of war from the Judean War. About 100,000 Jews were transported as slaves from Judea and used for hard labor in quarries and construction sites. The Jewish captives and refugees who came to Italy as a result of the war constituted one of the first great waves of Jewish migration, which began the formation of diasporas outside Judea. Until the end of the 1st century, Rome's policy toward the Jews was harshly repressive, after which there was some easing. The Emperor Trajan did not initially intend to oppress the Jewish population, having other objectives in mind. The fatal change began in 115, when Trajan undertook his military campaign in Mesopotamia. Major Jewish revolts erupted in several eastern Roman provinces, prompted by the Roman war with the Jewish state of Adiabene, as well as a regional outburst of antisemitism and Greek-Jewish interethnic conflicts. The Second Judean War, which eventually moved into Judean territory, lasted 2 years. The outbreak of the third and last major Jewish revolt against Rome, Bar Kokhba revolt, of 132 to 136 was provoked by the reckless policy of the Emperor Hadrian to finally suppress the Jews. Among other things, he forbade circumcision and intended to build a Roman city on the site of Jerusalem with a pagan temple on the site of Solomon's temple. This devastating war lasted 3 years, claiming the lives of about 500,000 more Jews. Under the laws passed after the war, the performance of Jewish rituals and the teaching of the Mosaic Law were forbidden under penalty of death. Under the next emperor these laws were abolished. The 2nd century saw the end of Judeo-Christianity and the emergence of Christian anti-Judaism. In the 5th and 6th centuries, during the time of the Byzantine emperors, there were repressions and pogroms organized by the Christian authorities against the Jews.